time now is 6:36. It's Tuesday, March 8th, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Jill's not able to be with us this evening. She's not feeling well, but we still have quorum, so we're able to go ahead and do our meeting. And the very first thing I'd like to say is go Granby boys. We've got a Sweet 16 state tournament happening next door. I think this is the highest we've ever been in a state tournament.
Yes, it's a different format than we've ever played in.
Either way, they're
but
killing us.
yes.
They're doing great. And so we're wishing them a ton of luck. And hopefully we'll have some updates throughout the meeting and we'll hear that they won. First up is the consent agenda. Minutes from February 15th. Has everyone had a chance to look them over? Any comments, questions, conversation? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Next is warrants 51, 53, and 54, which are making their way down the table for signatures. Any questions or comments for that? If not, can I have a motion to approve the 3 warrants?
I'll make the motion to approve the 3 minutes.
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Visitors' comments. Any citizen wishing to speak before the committee must sign in with the administrative assistant prior to the opening of the regular session of the school committee. The visitor will identify themselves by name and address and shall speak for no longer than 3 minutes. For anyone who is unable to sign in ahead of time, we ask that you clearly state your name and address so that this information can be included in the record for the meeting. Do we have anyone, any public comments? Visitors' comments, public comments, whatever they're called, any of those? Give it a second. Okay. I don't see any, so we're going to go ahead and move on. Next is student rep. I know Marcus is not here this evening. And then I didn't see Cheryl on that list. Cheryl?
No, did not.
All right, so we'll just keep those on for next time. New business. First is the baseball fence. Are we gonna
I
push
think we're
that
gonna move that to our next meeting because Brittany and Ally are
at the game?
at the game.
So that is gonna be
3/22/22.
3/22/22. Okay. Next is extend track club through spring. Is that also gonna be pushed?
So because some things might start prior to that meeting, the ask is basically to extend what the committee had already
Oh, this is
approved
the
for the
winter, for
winter.
winter, just to
To
keep it going.
continue, to keep it going.
Do we need a vote?
Yes, just to move it, just to continue with what you've already agreed to. I think originally the vote was just for the winter.
Okay,
So this would allow them to continue practicing and if there's any competitions during the spring.
okay, great.
I'll make the motion to send track club through spring. My only question when you said competitions through spring, this is running club. So I don't think that this is.
Intramural, they had.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that they had, okay, sorry, I thought that.
Just, yeah, just a couple that
Okay.
they attended.
But they, there's no, I think they paid for them themselves, whatever. It's like an intramural.
Yeah, it's
kind of thing.
been, it's very small and they're just making it work kind of self-sustaining.
All right,
Can I have a second on Audrey's motion?
so I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Next is mid-cycle review, and we've also, Steve and I just chatted briefly before the meeting. We're gonna push that to 3/22, although you have some stuff in the folder. Audrey, do you want to talk about what's on the folder? But we know that Jill was pretty,
Yep, Jill was the one that made all the photocopies. Really, this is just a discussion.
Okay.
It's not any,
documentation or
formal
anything?
documentation or written responses yet. This is just a discussion. So we put together all the goals and just everything that's already online, just so everyone can have a hard copy. And so, but if you so choose to kind of go through your computer versus go through this, And as I understand it, Stephen's gonna go through his goals. He's going to have a discussion about what he has covered so far, what evidence he has provided so far, and then that'll give us an opportunity to think about it and have some responses. Maybe we want to look for more evidence for a particular goal item or some additional things. We can provide that feedback to him so that he then has the rest of the course to get those items for us
Okay,
as requested.
all right, I think,
Just, yeah, just so I do have some slides and I can put them in the folder for next time. So the way I've set it up was, yes, like the approved goals, then the district priorities, the focus indicators we identified, and then 2 slides that have a lot of information that I won't talk all through, but it's areas in need of improvement or further exploration, being the mid-year, and then successes or things we're on the right track for. So talking through those, but then also open to answering any questions that people might have.
so we'll put that on the agenda for next week. I appreciate the copy because I do like to be able to jot down notes quickly as I'm going through that. So I appreciate that.
22nd.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments on that at all?
If anyone does have any questions, feel free to let us know.
Okay.
Or if you're looking at any of that information and you're already starting to ponder about some of the things that might be in this evidence folder, which we share the evidence folder. I did have one person request access. I think I emailed back to say, just basically with the sharing status, anyone with the link to view. So I responded to that person and let them know it should be all set now. But if anyone else is having trouble, feel free to email me as well.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I feel like we're in a good place for this. So thanks to you guys for all of your work on that, because it's, there's been so much other stuff going on that I feel like it's good to have that. Yeah. So job well done. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jill.
And thanks to Jill too. All right, next is the Regionalization Survey.
So in your folder, you should see a letter drafted as we had discussed last time for your review and feedback. A couple of notes that I did put in here, like little adjustments that, if we don't have it, we should put this on school committee letterhead. We've discussed this coming from the school committee to other school committee chairs and copying the superintendents in those districts. I know we've also received something from finance committee in the meantime about their what they're proposing, basically a pre-feasibility study before moving forward. But ultimately, if this was discussed prior to that, so I wanted to make sure I had it, but depending on which way, and I do think, it's information gathering, as we said 2 weeks ago. So
And
really
also
up
we
to the school
had
committee.
reached out to some other,
We reached out to the Collins Center. Adam and I met with representatives from the Collins Center from UMass Boston, and we spoke to DESE about this as well. And they both agreed that really the next step in determining whether or not regionalization would be a possibility is determining if there is a partner.
Right.
And I think that's what the finance committee in their meeting indicated, saying they would like a third party to look into that. But again, that is the next step. And this really, I think the intention of the committee was just for information gathering. So
for my 2 cents worth, I feel like we're gonna send this out, we're gonna see what comes back. And if we have multiple people that are interested, that's when we would reach out to try to find a third party to do that, to find out which one is going to be the better match, and they start to do all of that. So I don't want anyone to think we're flying in the face of their
Yeah.
recommendation, but I do think based on the people that do this with Collins and DESE, I think it makes sense for us to send this out. It's a little bit less expensive. It's just some postage to send these out. So we just need a vote to go ahead and send that out. If anyone, has everyone had a chance to read the letter?
Yeah, I do have a quick question though, because as I understand, it was previously looked into before.
It was.
Do we have any of that information still? I know
It was, so
a superintendent or two ago.
At
like
least,
5, 'cause it
yeah.
was when I was a kid. I graduated in 1992, and we were doing some of those studies 1990. I think it was my junior year. I went, and our partner at that time was supposed to be South Hadley. And we had teams of kids that went to the high school, and you partnered up with somebody and shadowed them for a day, and then they came to Granby and shadowed us for a day. And there was a lot of talk, and Granby, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like Granby voted for it and South Hadley voted it down as a town at the time. And, then they had some hiccups along the way as well as we did, but,
I think ultimately, this is going to be between the towns.
right.
I think really this is some information gathering.
Under Cheryl, essentially. So I didn't know if we had any.
Yeah, I asked around, but I have not been able to find any documentation of it.
So I think it was sort of in the same vein from what I remember. Of course, I wasn't on school committee the entire time of Cheryl's tenure, but I know it was, again, something that was, I think, my memory is not perfect, and it wasn't when I was there. I believe it was sort of in the same vein where it was something FinCom had mentioned, and I think it was kind of brought in and summarily dismissed. So, at this point, it's been batted around a few times, and I'll be perfectly blunt, my gut is no. But we don't know what it means and what it looks like. So Stephen and I have talked about it, and based on the information that he got from Collins and from Desi, our really first step is to poll the legitimate people that would be contending partners, and then go from there. And if, we send the letter to 5 people and all 5 say no, then,
Do we have an idea of who we're sending out to?
I did come up with other towns that would be worth considering. Hadley, Hatfield, South Hadley, Amherst, Ludlow, Belchertown, Ware were the 7 that I had come up with. For no particular reason, as those are outside of Hatfield. Maybe Ware in fairly close proximity. They're not already, except for Amherst. Amherst is part of a regional. But the others, Holyoke, Chicopee, they're not looking to regionalize.
well, I don't think Holyoke technically could right now anyway, could they, when you're part of receivership?
I don't know.
That I had heard that, but I'm totally talking out of
They come out, see what
No.
No.
So I just have a question. If this is being mailed, I see that it says please respond either by clicking here. Are we also going to attach whatever that by clicking here to fill out the survey? If it's being mailed?
We were going to electronically mail it, but we can snail mail it.
No, I think electronically mail, I mean, that's, I was sort of being flipped saying, it's only gonna cost us postage, because in my head, I am old.
So I don't know, we may want to send it certified mail so we know
We
someone
could send,
received it.
we could send it, we could send a snail mail copy and just reference that we also sent it to an email address that they
Yeah.
had.
Snail mail it, we actually put in, like
The survey
You put in
or the link.
the link.
Yep.
Sorry.
the email address or whatever it is.
Yep.
Yeah,
But I do like the idea of sending it snail mail certified.
Yeah, just so you know,
That there's 100%,
Right.
when we're questioned later who received the initial survey, we'll have
That
receipt.
would be great too.
yeah, so because then they received it, but we don't get a response. You can
Right, it's a
just
lot easier than, yeah.
make an assumption.
Right.
And we'll send an email and snail mail then.
I'm gonna read this over, but I think there's a couple things that might need to be tweaked. There's something that says all that being said in a comma, but then it's like a new paragraph. So I'm not sure if I'm missing part of it
I don't
or.
know if that was the way it's grammatically meant to be.
No.
You see it? Oh, there it goes.
Just like that.
Just like that, it'll be gone. So If anyone has any comments or questions or any other tweaks besides putting in the full address of the survey, let Stephen know. And then what's the goal, to send it out by before the end of the week?
You can
or
send it out by the end of the week.
Is everyone, well, first we probably should vote on it, I guess. Does anyone have any other questions or comments about doing it this way?
I
So-
guess my only other question, and I understand, like, I know it's been the discussion, the 7 through 12 piece, but like, would that also deter people if we're only regionalizing grade 7 through 12?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Do
Like,
you know what I mean?
so,
Like, everything's listed 7 to 12, so, like, are we only looking for?
we're only looking to regionalize for 7
Well,
through
like
12.
Hadley, Hatfield, they are 7 to 12. They are 7 to 12.
They're not, where do they send that to?
They have elementary schools. Hatfield has pre-K to 6 and 7 to 12.
Yeah, I understand that, but like, usually when I think of like a regionalized school, like, we do both.
Not
It's
always.
always Frontier Regional.
Yeah.
Amherst, Pelham, Tolland, or whatever it is, Amherst,
Okay.
Pelham, what's the other third town?
Petersham?
Yeah, they all have their own elementary schools. Wilbraham one sounds like a private school though.
Yeah, like
Not Wilbraham.
Miniature.
miniature.
That's Wilbraham Hamden. They each have,
Thank you.
Wilbraham is, but they each have their own elementary schools. And then they all converge at the high school in 9th grade.
Yeah, similar to Hampshire and
Yeah.
Gateway as well.
Hampshire Regional, Gateway, and Frontier Regional are all 7 to 12 schools.
Frontier 7 through 12, but I think Hampshire is 9 through 12. No?
I think they're 7 to 12.
Okay,
Think.
but anyway, I think it's probably one or the other, but I believe we're only looking for 7 through 12. Do you want to add more? Well, no, I mean, this is the time to discuss it. If you want to,
Why don't,
I think they're only considering, when I say they, finance committee, 7 through 12 is so we don't have to invest in a new building,
right,
is their objective.
And to, right, understand if there is or isn't a cost savings potentially.
And essentially, most of these other towns, I think I know where you're going with this.
thank you.
But if we were to go lower than 7, they would all have their own elementary schools that they're utilizing. So that would not be an attractive.
But with their
No.
elementary schools, only include 7 through 12.
no, they would be 6, 7, 8.
You're getting that?
A lot,
Yeah, I
of
just
no,
want
I know what you're,
regionals.
I know what you're going for, because
Yeah.
my thing is that a lot of the schools on this list are typically 9 through 12, so we're gonna have a 7 and 8 problem.
Right.
But I don't know, because I don't think that most of them, I think it's a pretty fair.
Belchertown, Ludlow,
But you could have a
Amherst.
regionalization and a tuition agreement. So you could have regionalized 9 through 12 and have a tuition agreement for grade 7 and 8 or 6, 7 and 8. But the town of Granby would have little to say about what that tuition might be, right? Belchertown could say, yeah, we'll take your 7th and 8th graders at
Right.
$23,000 a kid or 19, right? Like they would set that
I
number.
think it depends on the district, because there are a lot on that list that have middle schools, but there's, I feel like an equal amount, like we said, I know Hampshire, Hatfield, Hadley, I know they're not regional yet, but they're 7 to 12, Hampshire 7 to 12, Gateway 7. to 12.
Hampshire.
I didn't have
there.
Hampshire or
Hadley,
Gateway on
Hadley
here.
and
So
Hatfield,
Hadley and Hatfield have a
7 to
12.
12,
Right.
and all the others are not.
That are, and they're the only 2 that are currently not regionalized.
None of the rest of them are either. South Hadley is
Correct,
not,
sorry, yes. none of them.
Ludlow is not,
Amherst
Belchertown is
is the
not,
only one
Amherst,
that
Amherst
is.
is the only one,
and they are 9 through 12.
and they're 9
So
to
that's, I
12.
guess, my question is like, do we?
Talk it out.
I think she's really looking for 6, because
Well, but no, but like Hadley and Hatfield, if they're following the 7 to 12 model, do we say 7 to 12? Like, or the other schools that do a traditional middle school, we say 6 through 12. Like, again, if we're thinking of regionalizing, this is no longer, walking our kids across the driveway. This is
Well, it could be, because we could have the campus here.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
I just. you know,
I just-
mean, like,
That is-
Just saying,
It's
an
a, it's a.
It's a viable
It's a
option.
viable option.
I mean,
I can see your face now.
It's a viable option.
The thing is that we're putting this out there and we want to see what the feedback is, but we should be clear on what it is that we're looking for.
And I
And
also want to make sure that on the town side, that we're not just doing it to say we're doing it, we're making like a good effort at showing that we're really trying. Do you know what I mean? So like for, you know, the situation of like a Belcher County or South Hadley that has a 6 to 8 middle school, but we say we don't want to do 7 to 12, so then it becomes a tuition option and they're gonna ask us for 23, whatever.
we don't know, we're just throwing numbers. out.
Correct, but like it could legitimately be that versus saying like for that town that we know does a traditional, not even traditional, a middle school model of 6 through those.
So South Hadley is, their middle school is only 7 and 8.
Okay,
And again, this is, it says
I don't
here,
know,
like,
but
this
I think
is,
Belchertown is 7 and 8 as well.
we're just looking to see if
And-
it's there.
yeah, and it's not binding, and
And there,
like,
if someone.
there's a long road to travel. If there's any interest, then like 6th grade could certainly be included.
Homework on
or
it
not.
for districts Either to know,
So-
you know, but I just want to make sure it looks like we did our homework too, that we're not just suggesting 7 through 12 and they do it. Like, I just want to make sure that we look knowledgeable, that we're making our.
So I appreciate, I appreciate and understand what you're saying, and I hadn't thought of it that way. Where I feel like anybody that it reads it back to us that says they're interested, it's gonna be the opening of the biggest conversation. Because they're gonna be like, well, hey, you have the brand new elementary school. What if we talk about doing pre-K to 5 for both towns in your building? And then we'll do 6, 7, and 8 in our building for middle school. And then let's see about a new high school for 9 through 12. Like, you know, any one of those things. I think once you open the door, that's when we start to really hammer things out. But right now, I believe from from the conversations that Stephen and I have had about putting this letter together is that we're looking at it for the students that live across the driveway in 7 through 12. And then whatever happens out of this interest survey, then that becomes then a conversation. But I think most of the schools, just knowing them just peripherally, I can't even say it today. Their models are similar enough to us that 7 through 12 makes sense. I don't think there is one school on that list that has a 6, 7, and 8 middle school. Maybe where, maybe. But I think like Belchertown has a 7 and 8 middle school. South Hadley has a 7 and 8 middle school, and they do a big 8th grade graduation. And it's like Michael E. Smith is 6th grade, and then Mosier is 7th and 8th grade, or vice versa. Yeah, because Plains is K to 3, then 4, 5, 6, then 7, 8, and then the high school. Hadley, I think is 7 through 12, right? Hatfield is 7 through 12, but they have a middle school model with 7th and 8th, and then 9 through 12, sort of.
Well, it's really just a hallway.
Right, but it's a model like curriculum based and everything else, right? 7th to 8th, 9 through 12, sort of like we are. Amherst is 9 through 12 only in their regional, and I don't know what they do for their middle schools. I don't know, I don't know if it's 7 and 8 becomes regionalized for middle schools, but I know that the high school model that's regional is 9 through 12. And then Ludlow is, they have so many different middle schools and everything, and then everyone converges at the high school right now. So I think on our list, the 7 through 12 matches. I feel pretty comfortable with that, but I think,
we talked about.
yeah, I just, but again, I think if anyone responds in a positive manner, then it becomes a whole new conversation, and then we're gonna have to have the feasibility studies and all of that, because, you know, gosh, this is not gonna be a quick fix of it, you know, I don't want anyone to watch this or get a glimmer of it and be like, oh my God, they're regionalizing next year. We're not even close. So it's an exploratory mission, right?
And again, this is not something the school committee is pushing in any way. This hasn't been pushed on our end. The questions just come up every year for the past 3 years at least.
Yeah.
So we said we would ask the question, and then I think Finance Committee came up with something a little bit more formal in the meantime. But again, it's been talked about for 3 or 4 years.
So I think we just put it out there and see what happens. I just don't know that it's, I just don't know that we can do anything better than that for right now. Jen, any questions, comments, thoughts? You're quiet today. No, I'm gonna stay quiet.
So we need a motion.
Yeah, we need a motion to send out this survey.
Motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Alrighty, budget.
So, we're in, I would say, phase 2 or 3 of our budget process. I think when we last met, we had said we had finished our original meetings with the principals and department heads. We had essentially asked for their Cadillac of budget, so all their wants and needs were included. And then we asked that they go back and make 5, 10, and 20% reductions to that budget. Again, not knowing where we're gonna have to make reductions, but we know when we ask for the Cadillac budget, like, it's likely that we're not gonna get everything that we want. So, so that's where we are right now. We are talking with the department heads and principals, making cuts to those original asks, and also asking them to include some narratives around the impact of those cuts. And right now, looking at a level service budget, and to be clear, level service just means we can offer what we're offering this year. It's not adding programs or anything. A level service budget every year is going to be more expensive, right? There's rising costs that our budget can't account for. We did receive about $300,000 extra from last year, in addition to from what we received last year in our Chapter 70 budget, which is great, but essentially that covers the step raises for our staff. So, we're going to have some work to do. But like we've said every year in the past that, minimum net school spending is not what's best for our kids or for our district. And I think, our goal is to provide the best for our kids, not have to do the best with what we get. And, it's certainly challenging, and we're also not talking about adding turf fields or like anything over the top. One of the asks this year that unfortunately could be something on the chopping block is just mounting the projectors at the high school. So if you walk through the high school right now, classrooms have projectors, but there's wires going everywhere that students and staff have to step over. And can they endure that? Sure. But is that what's best for our teaching staff and students? No. But again, we continue to do the best with what we get. And, our budget is lean. And there's rising costs that we're not just going to be able to keep up with on our own, especially like in the budget this year, through the Student Opportunity Act. We got everybody got capped at 4.5% inflation when inflation at that time was closer to 6%, and in the fourth quarter closer to 7%. So we're not realizing all of that either. So as it is every year, there's going to be challenges, and those are some of the things that we're working through right now, and trying to make decisions that will set us up to be in the best position to make sure our students are supported, our staff have the resources that they need to help students grow and learn learn new skills, all the things that we want for our kids. And, it's been talked about in the past that, we should have some town-wide discussion around the budget. I think this is part of that. And Adam and I are happy to answer questions. We'd certainly invite any of the four of you or Jill, if you want to have individual meetings with us in the next week or two, please feel free to come in or reach out to us. We can certainly set up a time, or really any community member, because it is complicated, and we want our staff and students and parents and families to understand some of the intricacies of it, and not be necessarily scared away at a number, because the number, it is the highest budget in the town. And I think that's the case in every town. The school budget is a lot, but I think it's money well spent when we're investing in our community and our youth in our community. I think that's something that we can't forget. And I think our kids deserve the best. And I think that's my job, is to advocate for that.
I 100% agree.
I don't know if I missed anything there, Adam.
No, I think in addition to what Steve said, we're I don't want to say taking our time, but we're being really diligent in the steps that we're taking this year. Not that we haven't been in the past, but after town meeting last year and asking for additional money, and the main question coming away from people was, well, you didn't really articulate clearly enough what, if you had to make cuts, what those cuts would have been. And we keep saying, they were teaching staff, which we all know that possibly could have been, but, we could have been more specific. So I think we're really, we left that meeting right after that vote. We left that meeting and said, this can't happen next year. And I think from that day to today and continuing on, once this budget's wrapped up, like, we've kept that in the back of our mind, and every decision or conversation that we have, it's going based on that. Okay, this is what we were questioned with last year. If we make a decision, let's expect this question, and how are we going to answer it? So we're being very diligent, as I said, in this process and throughout this process. We'd love to be able to present you guys with a budget tonight or sooner. It's just, I think, unrealistic. There's no rush on our part. And I think we're doing a really good job of taking a step back, and hopefully, I'm sure there's some things we missed, but hopefully trying to get a wide view of what our budget really represents to the town, not only select board, finance committee, but townspeople, and residents and educators. So I think we're doing a really, really good job at slowing ourselves down, focusing on the things that we feel we need to focus on. So when we get to town meeting or presenting you guys with the budget, we're ready for those questions. And some of those questions we get asked every year. And in past years, we might not have been very good at answering those questions. This year, I think we're going to be very well versed in answering some of these questions that come up. So I think we've done to this point, a great job, but that doesn't mean our budget's easy to, come up with, and we're not going to have a deficit or a surplus, or by no means is that what we would hope that would be the case, but it's not. So I think we're doing a really good job this year, is slowing it down, getting everybody's input.
Again, too, so I think so much of our budget is fixed, not that the cost is fixed, but so much of our budget is not about adding things on, or it's about requirements. We can't control the cost of the oil and gas that is skyrocketing right now. We can't, food costs. We can't control, some of the service agreements and contracts that we have to make sure that our network is secure and firewalls are in place that are growing exponentially, that we can't, we're not making that up. And I understand the town's position in saying that they need to work within their means as well. Certainly recognize that. But again, I think, our families look to us to make sure that we're thinking about how we can offer the best to their students. And unfortunately, the business of education is not something where we're seeing prices going down.
So how have the department heads been engaging? Do you think they're more engaged than in the past? Do you feel like you're asking more of them? Because I feel like I'm hearing more about the meetings than I have in the past. And so I'm just wondering, do you think that they're engaging with you differently? Like, do they understand it differently? Did you approach it differently?
I think all of the above. I want to be careful. I don't want to diminish the work or the process that we had followed in previous
Oh,
years.
I'm not asking you to do that. I'm
Yeah,
just-
but as we all know, it didn't work, right? And
Mhm.
we've said from the beginning, once Steve got on, we were gonna blow up the whole budget process because it obviously hasn't been working. Although we get the budget passed, how we get there has not been ideal.
Okay.
So I think, yeah, I think we just, again, we took that step back and we said, what's going to benefit us the most? And it was really just bringing everyone to the table and clearly communicating with principals, department heads, but also staff. We've already met with staff at each building twice throughout this process. And I'm not sure we met with them twice through the 4 years that I've been here in previous budget development. So I think that was a step that we took and really keeping them up to date on the decisions or what we're thinking or information that they should know. So yeah, it has been more engaging. And I feel like sometimes there's some difficult decisions to be made, but I think we all have input and we're all seeing how one decision could impact another department and prioritizing that. So I do think it's been more engaging. I think it's been a focus of ours that we made it that way. And I think it's worked out great so far.
Do you feel like you're getting enough feedback from the staff? I'm not talking about just the team leaders I'm talking about.
Yeah. So, and Steve can talk more to this. Like, again, we had a couple of meetings with them. The first one was on Zoom and that was really hey, we're kicking off the budget process. We are going to come to you more times during this process. So if you guys have questions, come to us. We have office hours, all that. So the first one, really, there wasn't much engagement. We were there yesterday with both staff. There were a couple of questions among the staff to us. Do I wish there was more engagement? Of course. Again, we open up office hours. We tell them to come. But I think they've gotten more information than they have from us in past years. So it might be a lot to them. They might not even know the questions that they need to ask, but I feel like they do appreciate us being in front of them, keeping them up to date with where we are in the process. So, when it comes to April or May and it's town meeting, it's not the first time that they're hearing about it. The conversations they have with either the principals or team leaders, I don't know that. I'm sure they're happening. But I think the process it's been, I'll say, different than in years past. And hopefully we see the benefits of it in the next month or so.
I just want to make sure I didn't miss any emails or anything like that with the process and being so open and collaborative. I know we had talked about doing a joint meeting. Was there an update on that from anyone?
We, I don't remember the date that we had reached out
To
to.
clarify, you're talking about the joint meeting with select board and with finance committee? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so we had reached out. I don't remember the date that I sent it out, but it's been a few weeks anyway. We did hear from FinCom and I didn't hear directly from select board. I don't know if anybody else did, but we were hoping to have it tomorrow. That's not going to happen because we missed the post deadline. It should have been posted on Monday. So I'm going to reach out again to see if we can get a date. We wanted to do it
We
before.
missed the post deadline. We haven't heard anything.
Right.
We heard from FinCom.
We heard from FinCom.
Yeah.
He was hoping to hear back from 2 more people to see if he could have quorum. Apparently that he sort of left it that if he didn't have that, then he wouldn't reach out because he knew the posting deadline. I didn't hear from select board, so my plan is to resend an email and see if we can do that. We were hoping to have it before the 14th, on or before the 14th, try to keep up with our calendar. We might have to adjust that a smidge as we go, but I guess that's sort of the way it works for.
You sent it on February 15th.
So February 15th and it's March 8th. So we did hear pretty quickly back from FinCom, but they weren't able to accommodate this day. So we'll have to try again and see if we can do that. But it is important. I think, this is something that came out of one of our joint meetings, that they wanted to be more involved in the process, and so that nothing was a surprise. We were all on the same page.
Are we messaging or emailing all members or just the chairs?
The last time I believe
Or
I
liaison? Right?
I thought we did the chairs and liaison, but I can send it to everybody. I just don't, I'm not sure. I guess
Maybe chair to chair. right?
yeah, I'm sort of once bitten, twice shy. I don't want to do the wrong thing, so.
Yeah, understand.
So I think that's a good point, that perhaps this time I'll email everybody and see. I just don't, I don't know. I have to admit, I am a little bit frustrated because I'm not sure how else we're supposed to do that. I don't know. I guess, I can take some onus. Maybe I should be following up with phone calls or whatever, but I guess I'm not sure what the appropriate way to reach out is. If we reach out by email almost 3 weeks in advance to schedule a date, it seems like that should be a decent amount of time. So I don't know. And at the time we said before the 14th, so that's a solid month that we were looking for. So I really don't know if anyone has any insight. I'm open to it, for sure.
And it's tough because right now we're building a budget where we don't necessarily know where we should be. Not that entirely drives obviously our decision making, but it'd be nice on March 8th to know kind of what the plans are for the
You
school
get $2
department.
million or you get $20 million.
Yeah, so it's frustrating, but again, by no means is that is that taking us off course on what our end goal is. Because again, I think in previous years we've focused on that number and we've gotten to a number and said, okay, this is the number. Instead of really like we've been doing is taking a step back and saying, okay, what is the best? How can we provide the best resources for our educators and our students? The number matters obviously at some point, but focusing on more how to get to that number instead of, okay, this is a number, this is a number, this is a number. Yeah. So, and Steven's been saying it, and it's such a simple saying, but we've been asked for so long to do the best with what we have instead of doing the best for our educators and our students. And they're two completely different objectives. And I think we've done a great job of doing the best with what we've had for so long. But we can't continue to operate like that. It's just not feasible anymore. If we want to provide a high level education to our students.
And if we want to keep Granby residents coming here, right? Every time a Granby resident, right? Every time something gets slashed, people end up leaving, which costs
More money.
more money.
We're in, I mean,
Like it's an investment.
there's no denying that we're sort of in this vicious cycle sort of situation, but we have to, me, it feels like we have to figure out how we can work collaboratively. I do feel like we're trying, I guess, I sit here and I beat myself up. Maybe I'm not trying the right way. I just don't know what the right way is. So, there's some onus on my part, like, I don't know if I should be reaching out more or differently. So I'm sort of,
No, I think you're doing the same exact way. We're reaching out to them.
and I don't like the position where it gets where it's like anyone's pitting anybody against everyone.
Yeah.
We're all here for the overall good of the town.
Mhm.
We're representing one demographic of the school community.
Yep.
And it's a pretty big demographic. So anyway, I apologize because I'm frustrated and I'm probably not coming across in the very best light. And so I do apologize for that, but I would like to figure out how we can do better. So if anyone has any ideas on how I can do this differently, I'm certainly open to it. I know that you guys have been reaching out as well, but I was told that it was supposed to be chair to chair to schedule those things. So that's what I'm trying to do. And so I will send another email again before I leave here tonight, just so we'll have it and see if we can schedule something with the hope of doing it before the 14th. But that's just now everyone here It becomes a tighter schedule trying to get something on in a week. So I hope that we can try to accommodate something. Monday is the 14th.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
And we said before the
Right.
14th.
And so one thing that might give us a little breathing room, we have pushed some stuff off of this agenda onto the 22nd. We could consider, we have a 2-week break after the 22nd, 2 weeks between meetings. We could schedule a tentative meeting. We could post a meeting for the 29th where we focus on the budget and present the budget, do our budget forum that was originally going to be on the 22nd then. And just really focus that meeting on the budget, just a thought.
So are you saying,
Forum.
so the 29th be the forum?
Yeah, strictly budget. We can present it
Okay.
and
That's
Clean
not-
up the rest of the
That's not
agenda.
that's not the public.
no, so and that's unfortunately, that's a date if, as long as May 9th is
Town meeting.
town meeting. That first school committee meeting in April is
the public
the
one.
public hearing and where you guys vote on the budget.
When's the one-
Unless,
When's the one where everyone asks questions? Is that what we're saying to do?
that's the
29th?
public forum. So I want to be clear too. So the public hearing is just our presentation of the budget to everybody, the
So
public and
hearing
the
is the
school committee.
29th,
Yep.
not the forum.
No, the
Okay.
forum would be on the 29th,
Forum
March
on-
29th.
Okay,
Us presenting a preliminary budget, and then the forum, which is just informal dialogue between us
and anyone that.
and anyone that would like to talk about it. The
Okay,
hearing is the formal presentation to the public of the budget, where then the school committee votes on it, and that's the budget we would then bring
Okay.
to town meeting. So the forum is informal, we can have discussion. The hearing is just us presenting our final budget, the one that they would see at town meeting. Unfortunately, there's specific rules around the timeline between the public hearing and town meeting. So unless we scheduled an additional school committee meeting in April, it's that first school committee meeting in April where we'd have to have
the
the
hearing.
hearing and vote on
So
it.
that 29th is not like us discussing the budget with
It's,
amongst each other. It's the community.
We get to ask
it's
questions.
everybody. It's us
Yeah.
presenting you with where we're
I think
at that point.
29th,
Yep.
after the 29th,
Yep.
personally, But I can listen in.
And I guess it doesn't have to be the 29th. We were just saying it because it's a
Okay.
Tuesday. It doesn't, but ideally another
Okay.
one in between.
Yeah.
Because, I would hope that we would have a lot of engagement from the public, and it would be a 2-hour or so meeting, which,
Even if we get that date out sooner rather than later, too.
Exactly. yep, because and we're gonna hopefully rely on you guys to get that word out too, because,
That's really.
years past, it's the same handful of people that engage us, where this year, like, yeah, anything we can do, obviously, and it could be either Zoom, they can be here in person with us
Yeah,
as
'cause
well,
the Zoom was
right?
just
So,
extended through July,
Yep.
so we should
So-
take advantage of that, but I also think that perhaps we'll set up in the gym or
Cafeteria or-
Cafeteria.
Yep.
I like the gym a little bit better, just,
Because you just said that. So they extended it, but we could still have Zoom for people to participate or no?
no, that, because they extended it, we still
If
can't.
they hadn't extended it, we couldn't. I thought that was.
We
one of
can,
the
they can
actual-
broadcast it, but we can't engage. Is the way I understood that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would have been how it was pre-COVID.
Yeah, so
It
we
was still streamed, but not,
You
Yeah.
can't, like,
you can't engage with the visitor comment.
Yep.
Or anything
Right.
like that.
The 14th is moving.
what's the 14th of March?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was never, it was,
just
for us at the time, it was a target date.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't see us all,
Block that one
Right,
off.
but we were doing thinking for.
on the 29th, March 29th.
We were doing it wanting to do it the week of the 14th, which is why we wanted to have the joint meeting before.
Correct.
but we're pushed off a little bit, and we knew that we were gonna have to potentially toggle and jiggle and juggle some stuff around, so.
Yeah, the only concrete date on that calendar is that, and I don't know what the date is in front of me, the first school committee meeting in
April 12th.
April that's concrete unless town meeting moves.
April 12th.
So I'm putting in the 29th.
Well, Stephanie just said.
Oh, can't,
I think I'm open to other days. But do we have, so we don't have.
no.
It's the week before. 22nd.
Boys are up by 10.
40-33, Granby leading.
Because if we can't do it on the 29th.
It-
It
So
doesn't have to be a Tuesday. though.
it doesn't, we just said that,
Like, if we did
but
the
that
28th,
week,
for
yeah,
instance.
that week. So I would say the week of the 22nd, just not the 22nd, because we already have our meeting.
meeting.
So it doesn't have to be the 29th. Do we want to do Monday, the 28th? Or Monday's tough? Would we rather do the 30th, a Wednesday? Thoughts,
I got
preference?
nothing on my calendar. I was-
Tuesday. I have my calendar here. I can, yeah, Monday or Wednesday, Thursday. I cannot.
You can't do Wednesday?
I can't do Thursday.
Okay. Well, why don't we shoot for the 30th? Or you can't do the
Can I do
30th?
change? We shoot for either the 28th or the week before. I'm away the 30th, 31st, and just 29th. I know you said short, but like,
No, we said like 2 hours, right?
Yeah, it's
At
not gonna be
the,
short.
at the
it's not
most,
gonna be short, and I'm leaving like
I would think.
4 AM on Wednesday, so I would just prefer to not. on Tuesday. Only,
Yeah, we definitely couldn't get it done in an hour, but I think
No,
2
yeah.
hours might be too much.
It
but
also depends upon participation.
Yep, well, yeah,
could we do
Yep.
like I guess,
Could
if
also,
we think it's 2 hours, I'll do it. I can't do a 10 o'clock, like, until 10 o'clock meeting on Tuesday. That's my only concern.
we could even, I don't know what people could do though, time wise. We could do 5 to 7
I
or
can't make it
5:30 to
for
7:30. No,
I work until 5:30, so
right. So
6:30
6:30.
is, I mean, I could do as early as 6, but why don't
We do
we,
Monday the 28th.
Monday, the 28th?
We also said Monday the 29th as a-
We could throw this around in an email though, correct?
Mhm.
Throw some dates and see, so we get Joe's participation.
I find any of
All of a sudden, my battery just died. Isn't good to
So
drink
we'll
once
just
in a while.
email. But after the 22nd. Yeah.
No, I-
31st.
I can't do the 31st.
Oh, we can,
23, 24, 25, 28.
And, well, because then stop.
let's just throw an email together, because even if we put the date and everything with Jill, it would kind of be silly. Let's just put an email together and see. if any of us-
I'm throwing it down for the 28th right now, and I'm hoping that my computer will come back to life.
so the 28th.
And then I'll send it around in an email.
Thank you.
All right, anything else for budget stuff?
I feel like just quickly, subcommittee, we have a meeting scheduled too, right? When do we schedule?
18th.
18th, okay, so.
I would say the only thing for publicly, if people have questions about our budget, we're happy to meet with them. We don't have a presentation prepared for tonight because we have some work to do in the next, I would say, 5 days or so, where we're meeting with the principals and department heads. But we're kind of happy to talk through the budget, ask questions, answer questions that people may have at any point. And I think our goal is to make sure that we're communicating that to parents, families, community members, whoever has those questions between now and town meeting. We'd prefer that we can have those conversations leading up to it and not on town meeting floor, because I think these things, as you guys all know, are really difficult to explain on town meeting floor without being able to kind of point to some things and talk through them.
I just have one question. Last year, when did we get our cost from the town?
In kind costs?
Yeah.
It was around March. I did just send an email, last week inquiring, and haven't heard anything back. And I think it was, to the date of last year that I asked. So I just, or it was sent to me. So that's why I reached out. So around this time. Yeah, but I have not heard back yet. So I'm assuming Chris is still working on them for their budget.
FY 22's number.
So I built in a percentage increase to the FY 22 number as a placeholder for our FY 23, just based on what the increase was the last couple of years. Could be enough, could be too much, might not be enough. I don't know, but we have a placeholder. So. A lot of that, there's a lot of placeholders right now with projected revenue. Because a lot of those, like our circuit breaker claim isn't due for another month or so, right? So it's past the time in our budget. So I use a lot of placeholders with some percentage increases in there, and then we true up once we know those grants, all that. So school choice. So problem is that we rely heavily on those offsets or those revenues to offset our budget. So any change to the projection one way or the other impacts the operating budget. So.
Rick Bollier, right? And then, so it's Libera and Glassman. Glassman. Gloria,
Fernia,
Fernia.
Wilson,
And Scott Wilson. Glenn, Rick, Jen, Chris.
I think it's 22. There, so we should get to this there, Chair.
Sure enough. That's fair. To discuss the budget, right? Is ultimately what we wanted to talk about, right?
yes.
When we would like, when do we want to do it now? We need to do it before the 29th, right?
And did they say that they,
Yeah, right. And that's meeting is on-
Yeah, the 28th, that's when that meeting is.
Before, well, March.
Any date next week.
and FinCom, did they mention that they preferred Wednesdays, I believe, right? That's what they said.
Yeah, Wednesdays was the best.
Wednesday, Thursday, and then Monday was their next choice.
We need to do this before March 28th, as this is the date that we're doing our public forum. right, next up, or you said you had a question, Audrey, I'm sorry.
Nope, keep on.
She did, then she did.
She did, and then she did, okay.
She still does. She just doesn't want to ask it.
Yep,
Do
moving
you have
on.
any comments about any of the formatting? Like there's a spot that I noticed, I know this is just the first read, but it doesn't look, it might have a title missing. On pages, so this is. I'll hold it up.
You're in the policy D.
I don't have the. When we're doing it, we were faxing you, I was scanning the QR.
Which page did you say I'm again? I'm sorry.
Even like page 7, like.
Yeah, there's, yes, right there, there's some format.
Okay.
I know when we did this with Cheryl, sometimes, you know, you get rid of some of the blank spaces and everything starts to shift.
Let's see what they do with this.
Just, I know there was a couple that were missing titles.
Ooh, tied. 4 minutes left.
Page 20 is also good.
So the, where did a lot of this come from? Interesting.
It's a policy. Did have or did not have when they were modified. Because there was an original policy that.
We had, but then MASC sent out an update
Right.
and then Kimberly went through it. Our attorney took a look through it and then, yes.
Okay, it's just interesting. In a paragraph, I don't need to discuss it on camera, their language.
I think it's budget and adoption procedures was the missing heading. It was on page 9, but I know when Jackie did some of the other updates that page numbers changed. It is there. And now it's on page. I don't know, 10. That was what Jill sent on Sunday, so we,
Yeah, I hadn't looked at it before it was in the folder because when I was searching it, I found a couple of, like the highlighted one, so I didn't know which was the correct one, so I didn't want it to be back. Before I was looking at the correct.
And this came again from the MASCs.
We tend to follow that policy.
Okay, only because I see in this, there's a lot of the budget, or at least the page I'm on, is referencing regionalized
So we
districts.
pulled all regionalized out, so you're supposed to.
Yeah, so like, I don't know the page numbers.
Anything regionalized was supposed to be pulled out.
Yeah, well, you might have okay, so you could have taken the word out, but it says assessments to member communities shall be made in compliance with the foundation budget, which assessments are like solely for regional districts. Yeah, okay, so I can go through this in some other language. It says the budget shall be in compliance with the foundation budget. I don't know the page. I don't have page numbers.
You look on the scroll bar on the right side.
Oh, page 3. It says annual budget.
That's where I was seeing.
And we don't have to go through it. If this is a first read, that's fine. I can, okay, I can highlight, because just some of the language in here.
Can we do that? How does that work?
I can just name pages, paragraphs, and where in the paragraph.
It just says in the
Like paragraph.
third or
2 and
fourth
3.
paragraph, some of their language doesn't make sense.
They had multiple sections on
You know, this says though, the budget shall, this is to do with, doesn't matter, regionalization. It says the budget shall be in compliance with the foundation budget. It is acknowledged that the foundation budget reflects the minimum recommended spending for districts and excludes transportation costs, debt services costs, and costs associated with acquisition of fixed assets. But that's not what the foundation budget is. That's what net school spending is the minimum a school district can spend. So it's just interesting.
Do we have the original?
I have it with track changes from, yes, and yep, and she, and I even have track changes from Tracy, and that includes what Adam just read. The budget shall be in compliance with the foundation budget. Acknowledge that the foundation budget reflects the minimum that was included in their changes in 2021.
It's interesting.
I just got an update. It's 52, minute and a half left. I know. Let's pull it up. Go, Granby boys.
Yeah, so again, I can go through this, but there's a lot of reference to regionalization. Maybe not the word regionalization, but
That's why we do first
terms.
reads,
Yep.
right? So
Yep, and Kimberly noted a bunch of those. These changes are fine to adopt. These changes are fine, not relevant for you. So like DBG1, budget adoption procedures, not relevant for us, could be taken out altogether.
But the foundation budget is very interesting.
DBGA1, regional school district budget transfer authority, not relevant to us, Kimberly. So.
So I think if anyone sees anything else, send them to Jill and Audrey and Stephen, and we can either have an additional first read next time, even though it's technically the second read, but when you do the second read, from what I remember from Emory, is you're supposed to vote on it, so we can have another first read next time. Yeah, for this section. For our next time, which is the 22nd.
Yep.
Okay, anything else on this? Okay. Next up is school capacity and our enrollment dashboard.
So the enrollment dashboard is up to date as of the end of February. We're up one student after the month of February.
I show up 3 students, 7:15.
Sorry, 3 students. Yeah. No, it's, if you look at February, it's just 3 in and 0 out.
Is the resident, non-resident tuition enrollment just constant?
Wait, say that again?
Right here where it says resident, non-resident tuition enrollment. And it shows 2 tuition. Is this not for February? Is that a constant?
That's a constant, yes.
Sorry, I felt like before when I asked that it was updated, but okay. See the big bold.
I think they're in overtime. Oops, oops, oops.
I kind of see that enrollment dashboard, then you slide into school choices, that being reflected off of this, yeah. here.
Oh, the other team's up there.
So we said we weren't gonna do school choice recommendations until our next meeting, but if there were questions about what we might be doing, we can certainly speak to some of those. Just a couple things. Jackie's reached out. We have 100 families, 100 school choice students enrolled this year. We've reached out. We've heard back from 70. Jackie reached back out with a follow-up email and yesterday and a phone call to all those families today to make sure that we have accurate numbers there. I think considering our capacity conversation, I think it's going to be a challenge to have many spaces open at the elementary level. Maybe a couple grades, but that is going to be a challenge.
My biggest question, and I know I asked this last year as well, is looking, because of the capacity issue, specifically in kindergarten, we kind of maintained a small resident number of students. And we, like last year, or this current year, we have 38 resident, 9 school choice. If we had kept that as a smaller nest group and kept it resident with 38, that could have easily been 2 classrooms. And next year, I know that it's early still, and kindergarten registration is starting soon, but it's showing 25 pre-K. So even if that doubles again, another question would just be, I'm looking at the resident, see how
I was looking
many
at the school choice ones.
is showing 25 resident. Even if that doubled, that's still, that'd be big, but it would actually be still smaller than a lot of others. So I just want to keep that on the forefront, that we've been trending very small resident kindergarten.
Well, the other thing
numbers.
too with kindergarten is there's the children first kindergarten.
Correct.
So there might be, it might show smaller residents, but we know that they'll come back to us in first grade.
Right, so like this year though, like that 38, I know that, and Donna's obviously a great communicator to check in with her, but the last, it has been a really small, so just, if that's on the forefront, it's just a question.
I'm
because-
sorry, where's the 38 looking at? Oh, I see it. Thank you.
So like right now, I believe one of the classes is like 15 and one is smaller. It just seems like if we're having a capacity issue, these small numbers are the ones that I'd like to focus on before. Being selective. Because I currently, and again, for next year, our grade 5 is the smallest as well. So that's one that right now we have is 2, that I believe will stay 2.
Correct.
That number is, these K numbers would have actually been significantly smaller than that one. And like, I'm just trying to go, what's best for the students all around is maintaining the smaller numbers. If that's what we're going for, then that should be pivoting to potentially concurrent.
So kindergarten next year, we're still have those numbers coming in. I think we have 24 or 5 confirmed, but still
And that's on top of the pre-K?
but not all this pre-K is, not all this pre-K is pre-K 4. This is both.
But that, we're just doing kindergarten registration now, so we're starting to get some of those numbers more finalized,
So
right?
using the census and stuff like that, we had kind of projected that it was gonna be small as well.
Yeah, for this year, I think, and next. And then I think that's when we see that big bump.
So, just a question on the pre-K. What age? They start, so could they potentially be in pre-K for 2 years?
Yes,
Almost 3.
many kids are.
Okay.
And I guess again, just like when I consider kindergarten, that traditionally, like I know years prior, we had the 2. And correct if I'm wrong, Stephen, but I know that 3rd teacher this year is a substitute, correct?
She is filling in for a teacher who's out on a leave.
Okay.
But yes, That person is a substitute, but that position was in the budget.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we know if that person is coming back next year?
She responded last week that she intends to return.
I don't want to keep noting smaller numbers because there's kind of no sense, in my opinion, to keep a bigger class as two if there's smaller numbers. You know what I
Well,
mean?
the problem becomes that we're going against our word of saying that we're just advocates of school choice to have a third classroom when we clearly don't.
Oh, right, that's another thing. Because I know that it offsets the budget, but at the same time, when we're paying for a third teacher, that obviously also greatly impacts the budget. And it's not only a teacher, it's a teacher, it's a paraprofessional. So to say that that third classroom is needed for school, you know, to add in school choice to offset the budget, I do kind of have conflicting opinions in my own head about that. So I just want to be mindful.
Yeah, again, I don't think there's many places K through 6 right now where we're gonna see many open seats. In some ways, that's a problem. In some ways, we have residents who have filled those classrooms or other prior school choice seats that have filled them. You know, I think the problem becomes that, you know, you're not recouping that 6 seats in grade 12 and then the 8 seats in grade 11 down the road, like that could potentially present a problem. You know, and again, we're still looking at some of those options, and you know, there has been an option floated about that we could run. You could run something that looks like, and it's half baked at this point, but a pre-K for kindergarten hybrid class. So you could combine those and run them together potentially if that was something that would allow us to. So you could run the pre-K 4 with the kindergarten. Just like sometimes you
I
run,
did that when I was a kid.
right, just like
I
some,
wish we had a pre-K for a full day to kind of prep the kids for that, but that's like my own personal, and not my kids on maybe a partner.
right, and that's something that we've looked at too. But it's similar, like at the high school, sometimes you run a standard English, but you only have 12 kids, and then you have 9 kids who are in the advanced English, and you run the honors English and standard English in the same classroom.
Yeah, I don't want to get started on that.
No,
Go down
we
that
can,
road.
yeah. Okay.
Well, these are the conversations we have to have, so.
Because then is it an honors class for
For
everybody?
the, no, but they get differentiated work.
So obviously, school choice needs to be on for, I don't know, the 22nd is really quickly filling up. When do we need to have our numbers out?
I would say sooner the better. We're starting to get calls, specifically from siblings about what.
So, all right, this leads me to another question. I naively, I guess, thought we took the siblings without having to open a seat.
No. Siblings get preference, but if we don't have open seats available, we wouldn't take them at that grade level.
And that's common practice in other districts.
Yes.
Like I know there's families that maybe one student's here and one's elsewhere, and it's because both can go
Right.
back. So,
Well, yeah, it's the thing also depends on when they ask.
Right, and it could mean the other side that
Correct.
you all of a sudden now have second grade openings because they are going in the residence and staying together. But those are things that are just impossible for any of us to predict.
Quick question. The one that we were just looking at, over to the right. Our enrollment did not go down in February. Which was in went down.
But we have, our
It says-
residents went up.
it says new enrolled relocation, so I wonder, there's 2 there, so maybe there's.
There might have been choice and moved into town.
Yeah, because our residence number went up in February went up by 5. All the maps seem to work right now.
I was just like,
Thanks, Stacy.
Yeah, Stacy rocks. All right,
So we will,
so last time administration came with some suggestions for school choice. Could we get some of those? And then we went off of those and made our own votes and discussions.
we did discuss, and we ended up taking the
Take-
proposal from last year.
I know there was a lot of discussion on it when we talked about,
Specifically about how we were just happened to.
right,
Because I think K is the hardest one because there's a lot of unknown.
right.
And it was
So,
looking small last year.
but it stayed
Projected what
small.
it did.
But the other thing is that we have, and this is where I get hung up every time, is that we have so many new homes being built in town that are built as family homes. They're all like multi-level, multi-bedroom, big homes. So, you know, we can't be busting at the seams because we have to have room for people that we think are coming in, you know, like potentially coming in. So we can't plan for that because it's all a big mystery, but we can't be bursting at the seams either, right?
Well, we're not guaranteed that. There's that whole piece though, like, I mean, our next item in here is school, forget it. The whole capacity thing is that part of this needs to be that discussion too, like we aim for 20 kids per class, but is that really what we want to do too? Like, and I'm surprised it's not on here, I thought school capacity was on here.
it is,
No. it's
yeah,
not.
it's continuing business A, school capacity.
Okay, good, so.
It's what we're, it's, we're,
I knew
ta-
it said it
it's
wasn't.
sort of what we're talking about with the
Yeah.
enrollment and that it's
So
broken down this month
we
instead
need
of,
to have that discussion too, like, so that's gonna be part of that too. What is our goal number
right, and then.
have per class?
And so it's a bigger, it's not just a school choice or school capacity, it's, you know, we might have to make some hard decisions for short term about what the class size is for different grades and how it's gonna look and work.
Well, we're kind of like what our bigger picture is, because things are ever changing, right? And maybe what was super important then is adjusted, and not to say that it's even class size, but there's a lot of obviously different things that go into it.
You know,
Teaching styles, I mean, like, since this building was built, has changed the way that we deliver instruction, so. I don't.
oh my gosh, Granby won.
Wow, what a nail biter. Good thing Alex was not recorded. Where gets the
Well, it's like a spoiler.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
that was my other question too, is we were reaching out of.
Oh, wait, she
Have you
lied.
Heard anything from anybody regarding an outside source?
Outside source for what?
for what?
Stephen, you were gonna reach out to somebody regarding an additional person about the capacity piece. Looking into how we are structuring.
Oh. Yep.
I didn't know if there's any update on that.
Yep. Sorry, it should have been, I'll forward it to you right now, but I did get 2 proposals from CES. They are not,
Favorable.
Like, is this?
Yes, we may have lied about winning. It's not over yet. Sorry, I take it back.
I'm sorry.
Get over here.
I'm very excited for the boys. I know them all. All right.
So I just sent, there were 2 proposals after talking to CES about looking at the middle school model, a 6 through 8 model. So I just sent those to you that, I mean, you can read through them, but one was a full middle school design and report for the Granby Public Schools. That one was $15,000. And then there's an initial middle school design report for the Granby Public Schools. That was 5,200.
Did you share in a folder or via email?
I just sent it via email.
Must be a big file. There it is.
So these were after some initial conversations with them. I can certainly go back, but this is what they had sent.
So when they do, oh my God, 15,000, when they do this, this is just like a visit, right? Like this doesn't actually,
It's like a site plan.
like it's like one of those feasibility sort of studies, right? Like.
It's
do
still,
we-
yeah, full
do we-
plan
Do we so we actually leave with the plan that
for the
then would,
15,000,
which would
yes.
then be, we would be ready to implement that, assuming we could afford it.
Assuming we could afford it and it's the plan that we were in agreement with, yes.
Because so this is where, so when we talk about middle school, moving it to the high school, 6th through 8th. This plan, they come and they tell us like what we would need. We would need for curriculum, what we would need, how we would use teachers, all of that. But then we would have to parlay that into what how our budget is structured.
Yes, yes, yes. So I don't think there probably would not be much about curriculum, but yes, the staffing, schedules, how we're utilizing the space there, those types of things. Yep.
So if we do one of these.
I think the first option, we're probably ready to implement. Second option would probably leave some work to do with
Right, but-
implementation, but
But we'd only be ready to implement if we could withstand it in our current budget, correct?
Well, that's
I guess
where,
that's
that's
fine.
where I guess, that's where I'm tripping myself up. So if we agree to spend the $5,200 or the $15,000 and change,
I mean, ultimately, spending the 15,000 and change, we're paying someone else to do
the work.
that we already. we do the- do. I mean,
It's like double, so this is where I get
I
myself,
get the like, want to see outsiders views, because obviously those are through the lens, but then I feel like I already think you guys are doing an amazing job, all of our staff, so I want to make that moving too, so it's hard for me to be like, that's like, we already are paying people to do that.
so this is where I get myself tripped up. It's, okay, so if we agree to spend this money, it's essentially saying that that's what we're gonna do, because we're not gonna spend $15,000 to not then do it.
Right.
Right? And the same with the $200. It's
And like, who's to say we're gonna spend $15,600 and they provide us with whatever, and we're like, oh, that's great, yeah, let's do it, like, you know what I mean, like, they're not a part of us, they don't really know all the ins and outs, they're giving us 12 days of spending with us to tell us what they think we should be doing.
so if they do 12 days,
12 days.
it makes my heart hurt, honestly. Like it's, this is where I'm like, because in my heart of hearts, I'm not ready to say that that's 100% what we want to do for all of the reasons that we've talked about in the past. Like, what does that do for, did we ever get an answer back from anybody on if we change the use of this building?
Because I thought almost our answer was that we were not going to get a number until we had to change it.
And also, I remember we also were saying, we were also saying we didn't think they would want to commit to that because they may not want to be held to something in writing, right? So,
right.
so if we, okay. So we really can't. I'm stupid because I feel like I can't I can't chase this hamster wheel around and
Well, and
around.
there are a lot of unknowns, like we have that piece that we just brought up. And in addition to that, we also said that there could be potentially negative impacts for future MSBA because they'll show that we are not using our new building as intended.
And then
That
we're
was a
doing the
huge
whole
concern.
regionalization thing.
And then, so why are we spending $15,000 for reaching out? I don't think that we're ready to do this yet. Maybe down the road when we're closer. But like Audrey said too, we have phenomenal staff here that know our students and what their student support services needs are very likely better than whomever comes into our district for 12 days or their curriculum and, you know, so on. I don't think we're ready to jump down this rabbit hole yet, personally.
Not the top one. However, school capacity still needs to be a discussion so that it doesn't sneak up on us like it seemingly was before COVID. And it becomes are we making this decision in 6 months?
And I almost thought this was gonna be at East Meadow. Like I thought almost someone was gonna come in here and say what we could be using the building, the staff, the classes,
But do we
almost.
want to spend another $5,200 on this meadow? Then we've
I
already.
don't wanna spend $5,200 on either, to be honest.
Totally.
Yeah, and
and
I explained, I said that, I think last time I explained the situation at East Meadow to CES. And they said, why are you gonna have us come in and look at a brand new school? And why would you spend that money? That was their question.
I think the hard thing is it's brand new, but it is definitely just off of plans. It is programming's change, curriculum's change, what we offer has changed. So we do have to acknowledge that, like, you know, we have a brand new building, but we are using it differently because we have made improvements, if anything. But it's not like it's the same brick and mortar, like they didn't give us this building and we're using it exactly the way it was. I think that would be
Right,
a
I mean,
little
but
silly
that's
to.
anywhere. I mean, my building at Granby was built in the 70s and has partition walls everywhere because at the time it was open classrooms. So,
Well,
you know what I
right,
mean? Like,
right.
so you kind of roll with what you, like, that's just how it works too. Like, it's gonna come down again at some point anyway.
They won.
They officially won that.
Official?
Official, game's over.
Official spoiler.
Official spoiler. But so if we, that's one thing that what you just said is everything sort of is cyclical. Like right now it's, we're doing this. Before it was, we're doing that. And so it's like, boy,
Well,
it gives me a headache and
I
it,
just want to, I mean, and it doesn't need to be today, but we do need to make sure that we're keeping it at the forefront of discussion.
so, right, but how, so I feel like we have, and this is where I get hung up. And I'm being brutally honest, is I'm afraid that we do these things and spend money, but there's so many things that are in the works that we don't have any answer to, right? Like, we play a guessing game for what and who will show up when, you know, we get confirmation for school choice and then they change their mind. We think we have kids coming and then they decide they want to go to do a different school because they want to pursue a different thing that works for them, which is fantastic. Someone moved, they want to go to a private school. Someone, you know, gets out. So I just don't know how we're supposed to outline some of this stuff.
Here's the thing is, like we're sitting here and we've got concrete answers on something that's not concrete.
Right, but we have to make the decision.
Right, so that means we just have to step forward and start moving. And you guys already have a strategy that you do now. Right. Things can change, no matter what decisions that we make. Something is gonna change, and it's always gonna change. Nothing is ever, it doesn't stay constant.
Well, that's where I agree, but I think we're being held to standards where people don't want to change. People don't want to hear about, you know, adding anybody additional
Well,
into
we
a
need to
class
move
size. No one
forward.
wants to change the model of East Meadow. People don't want to bring more kids over to the school because it's into the high school because it's more of a drain on a building that we already know has problems. So it's like,
But the thing is do we stay in that small bubble while the world changes around us, or do we move with
well,
it?
some of that fear of change is driven by cost, in my mind, you know.
I'm not disagreeing there.
Yeah,
But
but
we
then you
had
see
to
these
make
numbers
changes.
too, and you're like,
Right, well, I mean, and none of this is chump change. $5,200 could be life-changing in someone else's budget for something that they need,
Absolutely.
you know, so I have a hard time.
The fact that we just tonight voted to send out a survey, I don't think that we would be ready to spend money on another essentially type of analysis over what to do.
So
But to have it on the forefront, just like we are constantly talking to school staff, because we're looking at the enrollment dashboard, we're looking at school choice weeks, we're not going to do where.
So we need to have a school choice vote by the next, probably by the 22nd, so because people are already starting to call.
But in the 22nd, getting two packed things. Or can
We
we?
have to make a decision.
Yeah. So at some, you know, we wanted to have a short meeting. It's already after 8. And we still have a bunch of stuff to do. So, you know, I think it's great because we have good discussion and no one's afraid to open their mouth. Myself, I'm the biggest offender, truly.
Okay, so move it to 322.
So because I really look for Jill's input on this from the two of you in particular, because you're in it, this is what you do. So as a different perspective than what, we all do together in the administration. So I would like to have her voice here. So hopefully she'll be able to join us again on the 22nd and have some more discussion.
Stephen, can you send us kind of, or have a proposal for open seats like what we had last?
That's what I had asked him.
Okay, perfect.
And I'm assuming, Stephen, that you're also open to any of us calling you to discuss it before the meeting too.
Of course,
Right?
of course.
So just,
So school choice seats opening have to dovetail in with the school capacity. And because we have been going at this, and we had said, and correct me if I'm wrong, we don't necessarily have to do anything for this year.
however, we do need another preschool. That's the only thing that I'm understanding. is We need another preschool. this next year. Correct?
So if we do that though, then that is an issue where we
We-
have to do something.
No,
No, it's
already
right
there.
now. Yeah.
It's just opening up another half.
likely be, or it could be a full day, it could be a half day. We're looking at all those options. Really, the change would likely be that it's 2 kindergarten classes, not 3, and that would open up that space for next year.
So they would need 3 pre-K rooms. instead of
Two. 2, they only have 1 right now, 2 half days.
I thought it was. one
Where's
and
the
a half.
other? pre-K room right there?
There's only 1 pre-K room right now.
So right now, kindergarten is functioning in one of the open schools.
Pre-K rooms, yes. Yep,
Yes, because third, okay, sorry, third group.
there's 1 third grade class and a
Yes,
K
so we'll do
class.
3, 6, and then next year, that was to do the 3, 5.
Oh, yes, sorry.
3, 5,
Yes,
2, 6.
Correct. yes.
Keep our current 2.
Yep.
To the 2. So it
Yes.
just rotate.
Move the-
Don't make your head spin me. Oh, and I did add to the folder, I added the.
School maps.
Fortunately,
Yeah.
it's very, there's another 7.
I just can't see myself saying, let me ask this about school choice. For those seats for families that are coming back, we don't have to vote to open those seats again because they're already counted in our number, right?
Correct. We're just confirming those to make sure that
Right.
they're all coming back, and if they are, then that helps
So-
understand our
So
count.
if of those 100 families, 15 of them decide to not come back, then we could safely open those 15 seats because they've already been counted in our configuration, and one or two,
Depends on where they're located.
Right, what
one or
grades?
2 seats in any grade is not gonna be it's not gonna make a difference
My
to
other
close,
question I
to
had too.
close a classroom to save a space, right?
Probably, probably
Unless all
right for the
15 of them are in a
most
second
part.
grade, say, then that might be where like, okay, we wouldn't open that back
Yeah,
up.
I would
because-
say like, though, even if like 2 kids were in 3rd grade, that would still put us at 61. Would we reopen those 2 seats already being at 20 in case residents come in, right? Like,
I just have a hard time seeing our budget with no school choice. When you,
But we
when,
wouldn't have no
Right.
school choice.
Like, if you
well,
look at it
we
right
would
now,
be,
Jen,
we would be losing potential. If we don't open any new seats,
So.
I don't think
we would lose
Let Audrey-
6.
let Audrey
We
finish.
would lose 6, but I'm curious, we don't know, or do we know, how many are our kids that have choice out that are graduating, our kids that are in charter schools that are graduating? Do we know any of those actual numbers too?
I don't.
Off the top of my head, I do not, but
Like, so
No,
like,
that's
one of those, like, those are all the
Really good
numbers.
perspective because we pay out for those students. That's good.
Are the charter.
Yeah, that's
You
really
know,
good.
so like those are all things that play in my head too, and it might only be one or none, like, but
And we can vote to do grade specific.
Oh, well, that's what we do every time.
Right.
well, even like when you look at this right now, it says we have 10 seats remaining in grade 7. We have 10 available and only 1 has been taken.
Right, well, it's hard,
6
it's,
available in grade 4.
yeah, it's definitely harder in 7 through
So
12, but
but that is one thing that, you know, we had talked about is that we had closed off the upper grades
Mhm.
and we could have
picked up
we could
1 or
have picked
2.
them up. You know, part of it was because of what happened this year, but
We also talked about early on, Stephen, and I want to definitely get this on track. I'm gonna make a note to email you. I'd like to do something for our current 6th grade families. Whether it's a flyer or something about kind of like what's going on at the high school, what classes do we offer? I feel like there's so much misinformation and people like get ready
step
to,
up days and stuff.
yeah, they do stuff up.
And I
days,
know-
but That's for the kids. I'm talking about families, 5th, 6th
There's
grade.
orientation.
I just know already 5th grade current families that are already thinking ahead because there's conceptions that maybe the high school doesn't offer things that they didn't 10 years ago, but that hasn't been.
So there is.
Maybe it should go home to 5th and 6th.
I'll follow up with Ally, but the plan was to do something around the parent-teacher conferences, which are March 24th and 25th. So that was what we had discussed.
And that's what I love when, you know, Marcus was starting to do more and more of that highlighting stuff. I feel like a lot of people don't realize the course offerings or the good stuff that is happening over there too. We need to talk about it more. And I don't even know because, you know, I feel like Jen, you talk about stuff sometimes, I'm like, you guys have your kids over there, so I get like, but I really don't know about it, you know. I've gone and toured, you know, even like it's not the same.
I just think that, first of all, I would say, if people have questions about what's being offered,
But if they already have it, then it's answering their questions versus like them having to reach out.
But
and be like,
that's-
"Oh,
but
what about
that's-
this? What about that?"
honestly though, that's where that's like the administration, that's not, like,
That's what she's meaning.
That's what I mean.
oh, I thought you were saying you wanted us to send it out. and I'm like,
Oh, no.
that's
From
not-
us,
that's not
yes,
pushing
no.
back.
I mean,
From
from the
us,
school,
yes.
sorry,
I'm
from the
I was like,
school.
whoa,
No,
that is
from
not,
that guy over there.
that is not our job.
Sorry,
I
no.
was like, that is not
No,
our
no, no.
job to be like reaching out to tell people
No.
what's offered, that's so.
Yep, so the plan when we had last discussed it was using the parent-teacher conference time because that was already a time that they would be here. So I will follow up with Ally on that in the morning.
That would be lovely to come from administration.
Yep. And I do know they were all over here this week. They met the 7th grade teachers and team met with the 6th graders this week, but getting stuff out to the parents, you're right, we had discussed it and the plan was for those parent-teacher conferences, so.
I think they're
I'll
actually
circle
doing
back
more
to
than they did.
A committee to, you know, community outreach. So
Well,
there's
it's so much-
outreaching to the community.
Yeah, this is our outreach right now.
But I mean, they're actually doing more than they used to do,
Mhm.
you know, so
And even having,
having the kids go over, so have conversations with the teachers now. I saw my really good friend's daughter over the weekend. They came over and she was asking Mayor all sorts of questions about like, is it true about this? And what about that? And what can I take for this? And, and, just, I was like, gosh, this seems so early, but it's right there. So I think it's better than what we had.
Keep it moving in that.
And it's also great having the students come to East Meadow. I know that, I don't know, Steve, if you were bringing that up, but you did the last meeting. Students from the high school are coming over to all grade levels. Like I know maybe a few years ago, this may be more targeted like kindergarten and the younger kids, but now they're in all the grades and the kids love it. Like I've heard such good response. It just
Yeah,
keeps
I
building
think
up
I think we have 22 seniors who are doing that right now.
awesome. All right.
I know when Patty was here, she spent quite a few during the school year. So she had gone over a couple of times. during the school year. They had lunch with them. I mean, that was a while ago.
Before COVID.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm thinking of that too. It feels like more because Mary step up there. He worked in school. So that it wasn't, we weren't really mixing the pools. So we don't need to, is there any other questions on enrollment dashboard? For right now?
No.
Not as the tool goes. We have tons of questions about school choice. So for the next meeting, we can push this. I think we need to do it for next week. We can readjust what needs to be
Right.
on the 22nd. And I know the 29th is supposed to be the forum, but we can take
28th.
28th, sorry. We can take a few minutes from that meeting if we need to at the end. We absolutely can if we need to. I wholeheartedly disagree.
Right, exactly, because I know us.
Yeah.
But the last couple forums haven't been super well attended and there hasn't been a time, even if we had people there. But people come, I hope they come with questions and I hope they come with questions and they email us questions so we can answer them, but I don't know. I mean, that's certainly something we need to work on. I don't know. Well, we can do flyers, but I feel like
Right.
I have a lot of choice words that I will keep in mind.
Anyway, so next on,
Moving on.
Moving on.
continuing business.
Math policy.
So last week we had voted, the school committee had voted to adopt a policy that included masks being required only in school health offices and for individuals returning from a positive COVID test on days 6 through 10. I provided the committee with some language from MASC for the review to formalize that vote.
So whatever we put in, I want to make sure that there is a line that says whenever the governing authorities rescind the policy, we will rescind the policy because it's not our policy. I want to be very clear that we are following the rules that are being set forth by DESE and CDC. So, and Board of Health, when they had all of those governing, it's not our policy. We're voting to follow the rules that are being given to us. So I want to make sure that we have language in there that says that if and when these parties rescind, that we don't have to have another emergency meeting to rescind. Does that make sense? What do people think about that?
Makes sense to me. So
And I can run it by the attorney.
it would really just be anytime modifications are made to DESE, because it could go either way.
So I can reach out to the attorney and just make sure that the language, whatever
Right.
language we use,
I
works.
think at this point, this isn't requiring. Obviously, the quarantine piece, but
And that-
that's probably it.
But I just want to have it so that, we don't have to then have another meeting to have another vote to,
I think that's
And like Stephanie said, God forbid we go the other way. It's, we don't have to have another meeting to have another vote. It's just, I think we had discussed it ad nauseum that we didn't want to have our own policy. What we were voting on is the type of mask, what was approved, all of that. And I think that language should be part of what we had approved. But I think that we had said that we didn't want to have our own, we weren't in the business of making the rules, the mandate, because none of us are health professionals, right? So I think that however we word it, we want to have it, I mean, if there's another variant or something, God forbid, and things come back, then however we have this worded, it would go back. We wouldn't need to then take another vote when it's over. We shouldn't have to, but we did for whatever reason. And so I think what we did was to follow what was an approved mask, and that became, it was like
And there were like two lines in
the
it.
way,
Yeah.
the way that the way it was written made it seem like we had our own existing policy, but what I thought we had voted on, and when we listened to the
So I think if,
the premise,
depending on if DESI requires it or if the town board of health requires, then all public buildings do wear masks, then the schools will have to
we'll follow suit, but we won't have our own individual mandate. I think we were pretty clear and in alignment on that the last time. So I feel like, whatever we do to vote for a mask policy, I want it to be clear that we're following rule. Like, I just don't want to get into have to do an off and on kind of thing, because as we've seen over the past 2 years, interesting trivia, it was 2 years ago this week when we thought schools were closing for just 2 weeks. March 13th, Friday the 13th is when we all got the call.
Just to go along with this and for housekeeping purposes, will we also make sure to note that we'll take out the mask violation that we voted for?
Yeah,
I think that's already been taken out after the vote on Wednesday.
Okay, perfect.
So that's just, so you wanted a vote on this, but you wanted to run the language by the attorney and see if that makes sense. Are you guys, do we want to see what she says, or do we want to vote to accept it with whatever she states?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have strong feelings? Am I overthinking this?
No.
Does anyone have any other thoughts?
So we'll put this back on for a vote on the 22nd with the language after I speak to the attorney.
We can get it beforehand.
What's that?
We can get it before.
Yeah, everyone has this. I'll just
Yeah.
add that language once I speak with her
Okay.
and then share it back with everyone.
And if she says that that's, not the way we do it, then, we'll follow. It just seems silly to me to have to modify our votes every time there's a change. So,
Okay. All right. So I'll share this with her and then I'll share it back with everyone. But essentially, the committee has already voted this in. We
Mhm.
just formalize the language so we can go into the policy manual and the schools can add it to their handbooks.
perfect. Okay, superintendent's report?
So want to announce and say thank you to Sue Crago. We just found out, it had been a week and a half ago or so, that we received a $75,000 literacy grant that will allow us to purchase high quality instructional materials and provide training and invest in a new literacy curriculum, grades K through 5. So some of that work is undergoing already. We're undergoing that work already. The real big next step, and Sue is working with a team from East Meadow to identify what that curriculum will be. Because the timeline for that piece of it is short. The curriculum needs to be purchased in this fiscal year. But $75,000. And again, I think that's another, right? We said one of our buckets is resource allocation. And this is part of resource allocation. This is $75,000 that we're going to need to spend one way or another in the very near future. And because of Sue's work and the work of the teachers at East Meadow that she's been working with, it's not going to come out of our operating budget. And I think it's going to better prepare our teachers to best support our students. And it's going to benefit our students because they're going to then have high quality instructional materials, which they don't currently in all places. So really looking forward to that. And again, thank you to Sue for that. I want to remind people that tomorrow, March 9th, is a professional development day for our staff. So there's no school for our students tomorrow. I was going to announce that the boys basketball team was playing tonight, but I will congratulate the boys basketball team for winning and advancing to the final 8 in the Division 5 state tournament. So I anticipate we will know in the next day or two who their opponent is. I believe if it all plays out according to the seedings, they could be playing Bay State Academy, which is the team that knocked them out in the Western Mass semifinals a week and a half ago. So also want to let the committee know and people know that we're continuing to work on revising our emergency operation plan, working with our school resource officer, Zach Gilley, Lieutenant Polar and Chief O'Grady. And we actually have a tabletop activity planned for tomorrow for our leadership team. Fire department, police department will be a part of that, and some administrative assistants as well. And essentially a tabletop activity. We play out different scenarios that could happen on school campus that could either drive an evacuation, a reunification. So we work through those scenarios with them. So we're drilling before we drill things like that with students and full staff.
Are we partnering with anyone on the emergency piece of it?
No, like other schools or like.
In the case of like a reunification?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have to have agreements with other schools, yes. So that's part of the things that need to be updated.
What is a reunification?
So reunification would be an incident happens on campus or at a specific school, and you need to evacuate that school and take them to like another location. So
Putting the parents and families together.
yeah, so it might end up being you dismiss the junior senior high school because the boiler backs up into the room or into the school, right? So they can't be there. In that case, they could just come here and that reunification would be fairly simple because it'd be on campus, and our pickup process is different with the high school. If it was vice versa, even just East Meadow moving next door, that would require some additional planning and logistical preparations. But there's also scenarios where you could be off campus. There's could be hazardous, it could be an accident on 202. Yeah.
All right. I don't like to put those things out in real words, but yeah, I just want to know what it means. I'm superstitious, leave me alone. Anything else?
That's it for me.
Any questions for Stephen?
When the team that Graco's putting together comes up with some stuff and some ideas of where they're going.
Sure you would. Yes, we'll share that. So we'll make sure that is, and what Sue's done now because it's a really tight timeline to expedite the process, is she's gone through ed reports and curate and identified what are the highest rated materials, curriculum on there, and made a wakelet of those that team can go through and look at what the curriculum looks like and how it might work here.
Awesome. That's so exciting. All right. Adam,
A couple things. One,
lightning strike.
cameras are still on.
Another anniversary coming
Another
up.
lightning strike.
It's almost a year, isn't it?
July.
July. Yep.
That's just a little too close. for
Yeah. So there's 3 cameras. They're on back order. It's,
Supply chain. Yeah.
you said it, not me. Yeah, that's unfortunately what it is.
Circuit card, microchip cameras.
Yeah. Yep. I really would just like to say for the FY23 budget, like we really, I'm like begging the community to be a part of our meeting on the 28th. Like I think we've had increased participation in past years. I feel like each year we get maybe 1 or 2 more people at that public forum. And I don't think it's by any lack of effort on our part. I think we do a pretty good job. But I really,
I'm gonna throw something out there, school committee members. What if we each bring a little something for light refreshments for the public forum? We're gonna do it. I would like to do it in the gym,
East Meadow.
East Meadow Gym.
We have to check if they're basketball.
Basketball is over. This week is the last week. But you know, grab a thing of cookies from Big Y or make something or whatever. Just light refreshments. I don't think we can have booze on school property.
Talk to attendance.
I mean, that's a great idea. I was gonna get to maybe each of you guys could get 5 people to come to the meeting.
Well, we're gonna,
They will come.
yeah, I'm hoping food and they will come, but, you know, I think if we all go to our individual groups, and we were talking in our budget meeting, is there any people that we would like to send a particular invite to? Like, you know, is obviously FinCom, Select Board, Chris Martin, anybody is welcome, but you know.
Even like if we do almost like a flyer or something like a virtual.
Just, you know, if the people that are always reaching out to you,
I'm just wondering, like, can we go to like even bigger, I don't know, can we just send something that, who says in a GAA that has a ton of parents or like to another, just so they can throw it up on their social media or what have you and.
G-Cam's ready to do it.
If you make a PSA, like this week, we'll throw it up whenever we do we're gonna do the Granby basketball game. We're doing home or away, so.
all right,
Awesome.
So if you reach out to me this week and you come into our office, the studio, or do it on Zoom whatnot, and you make a PSA of us, we'll put it up this week.
This girl will do it. She's like ESPN over here. Grab your mic.
all right, I'll do it. Just tell me what to say. I'll do it. I went to school to be a reporter, so I think I can
Oh.
handle it.
We just added more on to it. Now I'm expecting a lot.
So
You guys are both part of the committee of,
She's the chair though.
Reunification. Yeah, so it should be like, yeah, something going.
All right.
so right now we agreed on the 28th, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so as of right now, there is nothing in the gymnasium at East Meadow.
We'll put us in.
So I will do that. What time did we say?
If
6:30?
we're gonna be eating or drinking though, they're probably would prefer us to be in the cafeteria. I know they're very particular about that
That's
gym
not a bad
floor.
idea either though, like, putting up the stage and all of that.
Yeah.
I just think the gym is so much nicer.
Oh, I do too. I just know that if you want food or drinks.
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah.
They're gonna.
So back to my point, logistically, we can figure that all out, but I would just like for us to get as much participation as we can.
So let's challenge each other to try to get some people to go. I'll do the PSA. Alex, I'll reach out to you and see. I can do it on Zoom, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. But
And even if, you know, people can't attend, maybe you guys can get questions from someone that they would love to ask, but can't attend and wouldn't be able to ask, that we could then.
Or if GAA is having a meeting coming up, Adam and I will go to
Yeah,
them.
yep,
They meet at the Legion.
I'm there.
Perfect.
The first Monday of the month.
Right.
But they moved their location.
Booster, we're gonna reach out to some of our
Yeah, I know,
own.
the first Monday.
And we say this all the time, like we get, the community only thinks about the budget maybe a couple hours on a Saturday morning in June or whatever town meeting is, and we're in it for 10 to 12 months. But, you know, we need to get our information out to them and them help us get our information out. So the more participation, the better when we do the public forum.
Yeah, and it's the town's budget, right? So as many people as we can talk to and try to clarify things or provide them an opportunity to ask questions. We're happy to do that.
I noticed that now too, now that we're on their page, it's super exciting. Almost like when our meetings are on there, maybe we can make sure that it says like that.
Edit.
To the students, like that, on their calendar, on the calendar.
Yep. Yep.
That would be good. I was so excited.
It's almost too bad the basketball game is tonight because they have like a small table.
Oh. see?
Well, we don't know when the next one is, but it probably won't be home. I think we're all done home.
I think we're done with home unless,
Because we're the 7 seed,
so
so
we're the 7 seed, but the 2 seed played the 10 seed or the 15 seed. So if they beat the 2 seed,
we could,
we could potentially.
Sports event that would be at home or-
It would be a baseball, it would probably be a baseball game
baseball or softball or lacrosse.
in probably early April.
Yeah, I think the
Too
first
late.
games are the first week in April. And that's
Well, but not necessarily, I mean, what even, what, you know.
Right, 'cause we want-
it is for the public
for-
forum,
yep,
but it is, I
yep.
mean. we
Not
can
for town
start setting
meeting.
up,
Yeah, for us, our job doesn't stop until town
Yep.
meeting, right? Like, so as many people as we can talk to until then.
Schedule, maybe we can
Yep.
start setting our table up.
Yep.
Just us again.
Yep. For the halftime show.
All right, we keep cutting you off.
No, that's, you guys ran with that conversation. I like it. Yeah, yeah, good job.
But I think, if we have some light refreshments, we'll coordinate, but like so we'll use the cafeteria, I guess, instead of the gym, but either soda or coffee or iced tea or whatever, just something. And, chances are we'll end up bringing what we brought home, but I just feel like it looks a little bit nicer and if we have stuff and, and we will have a Zoom component, yeah? Or so
Yes.
people can,
Did we say 6?
well, that's what we didn't finalize. We want to do 6 or 6:30. And should we have childcare?
I was just thinking that. Yeah. Be minimal cost.
Childcare?
No, Chartwell's, see if they can provide us with
Oh, perfect.
refreshments.
Yes.
It'd be minimal cost,
Oh, that's even better.
Yep.
Let's do that. And
just
then,
logistically easier. and-
yeah. And then let's see if we can get some NHS kids
Yep.
that need hours to come and watch the kids and
That's huge.
That is huge.
So if we're going to go that route, I
the
would.
kids could be in the
I would
gym.
probably say 6.
Yes, can what?
Can the kids be in the gym?
Yeah, I don't see why not. If we're doing it the 28th, there's nothing in that gym, but for the rest of the week, Tuesday, there's basketball in there 6 to 9.
The basketball should be over.
No, this is a different group. That Mass Frenzy, Jacqueline, is that here or next door? Oh, it's at the high school? Oh, okay, so then the gym here is open.
But I would like to, if we could,
Can we do 6 o'clock then if we're gonna try to, I don't wanna go too late because especially with little kids.
I'd like to keep it, again, capped at 2 hours. I don't believe it's going to be as long as 2 hours. I feel like our presentation with slides might be, if we go through it, 10 to 15 minutes, and then we leave max amount of time for our engagement. And I don't see,
are you going to allow questions as we go or do you want to hold them all to the end? Like, what's your thought initially?
oh, boy.
Well, until the end,
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
rather
I'd
just go
like
through the
to get through
presentation
it.
and then we can maybe hand out some sticky notes if people want to ask questions or
Okay.
write them down as we're going, but I'd rather get through the presentation
Sure.
and then be able to answer and
And
talk
you'll have
with.
a bunch of copies, color copies of the
Yeah.
presentation.
Yeah,
so
we can
people
do that.
Take notes on it. So we'll do that. We'll reach out to Chartwell's, then we don't have to bring stuff.
Yeah.
But I just think it'll be nice. We'll coordinate with, or you will coordinate with NHS or whoever.
Yep.
But I think the NHS kids are always out looking for hours. But I'm sure there's a bunch of other kids that are looking to do, community service kind of stuff for the Hope, is it the Hope Club or, get a couple of the high school kids to come over and run some activities in the gym or
And we
something.
make sure we get an email confirmation on all of this too, just before we start blowing it out on social media or wherever else to our friends.
You mean from Jill that the time works? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Once we hear back from Jill and then making sure that we have childcare potential, that we have snacks, I just want to make sure before. That's where we're commit to 9
You have more than 2 friends.
I'm not really here because I'm in a small group. That's kind of hard.
Oh, my God, you're awesome.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
And Jill's not here for CES, so. Okay, do we still want to do executive session?
I think we have to, because last time we.
Well, we were thinking that, part of what we wanted was with Jill, right? All right, why don't we just vote to go into it and then we can immediately go out of
We
it if
can
we
do
need to. Is there anything else before we vote to go into executive session? We have quite a heavy agenda for the 22nd. We've got the baseball fence. We voted to continue the track club, right? So we don't need to
Yep,
push
that's
that
off.
on. We've got the mid-cycle review, additional first read of policy D. We're gonna have the mask policy from, assuming we get the language back from Kimberly. Is there anything else that would be normally that meeting? Is there a Chartwells or anything else, or that we just did that? Oh, yeah.
School capacity, school
capacity.
choice.
I'll do an FY22 update, but that'll be in my
Okay.
report out. So there's.
You guys have lightning update.
And the lightning update, I could just update you now. The cameras probably won't be in.
Kitchen.
Kitchen, yeah. Yep.
Okay, vote to now take a, oh, yeah,
Our next meeting is the 22nd.
22nd.
And then we also have
We're hoping to do the forum on the 28th, but we're gonna hope to hear back from Jill on that. Did I send out the email?
Yes.
Yes.
Look at me being all on top of stuff and everything. All right, vote to enter into executive session under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Part A3, to discuss strategy with regard to collective bargaining, as doing so in an open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee. The committee will not return to open session. Jackie, can you do a roll call, please?
Ms. Bartos.
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Collette.
Aye.
Ms. Suda.
Aye.
All right, good night, everybody.